We are live, YouTube live. Actually, can we push the pause button? Yeah. We should be back to streaming, he says. Are we? Okay, cool. This is Through a Therapist's Eyes on how fun was it to do the date 10-24-24 all day long on the progress notes, y'all. Love that.
It was wonderful.
I love doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except I haven't done them for
Yeah.
progress.
You need to do your progress notes.
I'm
too.
still catching up from
the
last week,
year
sir.
10, 20, 24.
It's so wonderful. You get 10/24
Yeah.
/24.
I love,
I enjoy it.
when the dates are easy.
Simple little thing. Everyone has tuned away from Through a Therapist's Eyes now. I am so sorry. Listen, we're going to be talking about transitions today, how mental health affects transitions.
Yes, we are, Chris.
And a special shout out to Miss Victoria Pendergrass, who created the topic and worked through it today, which is going to be the norm, I believe she said, from time to time.
Yes,
Yeah,
I will
okay,
do from time to time.
I like that.
Because after
We'll
doing
share.
it this time, I will say it wasn't as daunting as I thought it was going to be.
Not. Yeah, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. We'll switch off, and now that you found that, y'all heard her.
Yeah.
But really, a heads up to anyone that's listening to YouTube Live here. We turn the live mics on that you hear on Spotify in a minute, but any one of us would love to come talk to you. This is a presentation that she's going to be doing at a gym, so keep that in mind. We haven't really talked a lot about that, but John, would you be willing to go talk to a group
Certainly.
of people? All right, so just let us know and contact us. We are public presenters and speakers, so this is a platform. Contact at throughatherapisteyes.com, and you too can hear Victoria talk about navigating mental health in transitions.
I think also would this be a good spot to plug in, like if anyone has any suggestions of topics that they may
Sure.
would
Always.
for us to cover, they can feel free to email us.
Absolutely.
With, or even just comment on the video and say like, hey, have y'all,
You say
y'all
it,
thought
speak
about-
it, we'll
yeah.
do it.
or
what
if
else
we've
do I-
already done it, we'll tell you what episode to listen to.
That's right. That's right. What else do we do? I'm out of sync now. That,
Oh,
all
you
that
usually
special
read
stuff.
the 3 questions.
The 3 questions for navigating mental health in transition is what significant. I changed them.
Yeah, I'd notice that.
What significant transitions have I experienced, and how did they impact my mental health? Think about that through your life. Secondly, how do I typically respond to change? Oh, John,
Yes.
tough.
Yeah.
I don't like change.
Life is difficult.
I don't like change. Do I embrace it, resist it, or feel overwhelmed? I tend to resist it. Well, that's not true. I think I just tend to feel overwhelmed.
Yep.
Yeah, overwhelmed.
And resist it. It's like a combination.
Well, yeah,
of those two.
maybe a combo there. You're right, Victoria. So, what coping strategies helped me in the past, and how can I apply them into future transitions? So, I think with that, we're ready to rock and roll for the show. Is that fair, Neil? Yep. Let's do it.
Ready? 3, 2. You ready? Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes on October the 24th, 2024. I cannot tell you how cool it was to write all of my progress notes with that date today, John.
Yes, me too.
Right?
Exactly.
And Victoria...
When I get to them next week, yes, it'll be great.
Oh, she's behind on her progress notes, y'all. I did say y'all. Anyway.
Okay, we're not going to report it to the board.
No, we wouldn't
No.
do that. It's okay.
Gee, thanks.
But you do got to get caught up. Got to
I
do
know,
progress
I know,
notes.
I know.
Do a session, do a note. John Pope hanging out with us. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank
And
you.
Victoria Pendergrass, we already established, is behind on her progress notes. But you're good
But
otherwise.
I'm good, yeah.
All right, listen, we are going to be talking about navigating mental health in transitions so that you understand some questions that we want you to think about. What significant transitions have you experienced throughout your life, really? And how did they impact your mental health? Thoughtfulness develops insight, and you can do something about it. How do I typically respond to change? John and I agreed, like, ouch, right?
Yeah,
I don't like change.
it
Ew.
sucks.
It sucks.
Yes,
Gross.
It
exactly.
sucks.
Yeah.
How do you like change, Victoria? Do you like things?
Gross.
Yeah, okay. We're all negative on it.
Yeah.
So do you embrace it, resist it, or feel overwhelmed with it? And lastly, thirdly, what coping strategies have helped you in the past, and how can you apply them into future transitions? So this is Through a Therapist's Eyes, where you get insights from a panel of therapists in your home or car, knowing it's not delivery of therapy services in any way. Got the marriage book I'm very excited about. John wants me to say the whole title every time. Can you do it?
No.
No?
Re-understanding your marriage and becoming your best self as a spouse.
Thank you, Victoria.
That she
Through
could
a
see that.
therapist's
Because I can read.
eyes.
Yes.
She could see it. It's on my.
Yeah.
It's on the
So
bookshelf.
It's on the bookshelf.
that's 2, not
That's-
just 5 more.
That's 2, and I got to do 5 more, John says. Because we're amping up interest in this project. It is a really, really cool book project that you can get on your own on December the 17th, the publication date. I have them in my office. I'd be glad to share them, sell them, let you have them. Yeah?
Will they be available on Kindle? Like for the Kindle?
Yeah, should be.
Should be?
Although not
Kindle
in-
Unlimited.
Not in audio format.
That's fine.
Yeah. So, yeah, it should be.
But yeah, I
This is
mean-
Amazon, right?
Yeah.
It goes off Amazon. John, how many stars are they supposed to leave us?
Always leave us 5 stars. And I've put 2 hands up, so 10 stars, but 5
2
stars.
times 5 stars?
That's right.
Please leave comments. Your job is to help us be found with Spotify, Apple iTunes, Apple Podcast, all that kind of stuff. Contact at throughatherapist's.com. Finally, this is the human emotional experience, which we do endeavor to figure out together with our 2 new YouTube Live members. That is your job also. Listen, we spend a lot of time, effort, and energy doing a free podcast for you, and we want to keep it free so that you can help us grow. Tell people, friends, help us to grow YouTube subscriptions. We haven't had any for a couple weeks. We got 2 today.
Yeah.
We're going to play a
Excellent.
game, though, Victoria. We're going to play a game.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are. We got to play a game. We have to each try to honor one of the new YouTube Live members by trying to pronounce this name. And
Not
I
to
think we should
insult them.
all try, not to be insulting, but it's a very challenging name. Okay, so I think that we should all, if you hear me first, then you go, and maybe we'll get close. Because the first one is Indrakshi Bhattacharya.
Bhattacharya.
Bhattacharya. I like that. Indrakshi Bhattacharya. That's got to be pretty
Indra.
good. Indra.
Indra. So
Indra.
so I'm wondering if that's a female name.
Okay, go, Victoria. Come on, play it. You got to play the game with us.
Gabriel Rhodes.
No, that's totally cheating. Not fair.
Which is the other new member.
Yeah, should we let her get away with it, John? I think that fits. That works.
Yeah.
She was effective.
Yeah, and certainly our apologies for
Butchering, I'm
butchering
sure.
a name.
Yeah, I
of a
appreciate that.
Wonderful person.
But thanks for joining us.
Yes, and we are very
Glad to have
happy
you
to have
here.
Gabriel and Indrakashi
That reflects
join us.
badly on us, not on the other individual.
Absolutely, absolutely. But we try. Okay, I want to spend a minute on this current event
Yeah, that's fine. I think we need to.
because I was really, really sort of enthralled, and whenever I hear something about menopause, I want to bring it up online here because I think that we need a worldwide discussion on that topic. And the other big influencing topic I would like to have us really think about is instead of the Me Too movement, the He Too movement. I really feel that we need to begin dealing openly, John, with the fact that men are victims of sexual abuse. And that is something that cannot even be mentioned. It's such a damning thing for a guy that we don't even have the words or the platform to have any kind of discussion about it.
You don't drop the soap.
It's
either,
just
so
not okay. So I was really, really happy to see some genuine reporting on an issue. Now, I am going to be clear. I do not have direct line information with this. I am only taking advantage to be able to talk about this because I saw it on a news program, News Nation. Chris Cuomo was talking about the P. Diddy case and all of the. Am I saying that right? By the way, P. Diddy, I believe,
P. Diddy,
right?
yeah. Puff Daddy.
With him being incarcerated for all kinds of nefarious parties and events,
Yeah.
and just tragic.
Yeah.
Well, there's more that's coming out about this. There's going to be a lot more that comes out about this. But Chris was talking on his program about the people involved in these parties, in these events and things. And one of the groups was named Abercrombie and Fitch. That is
Yep.
a high-end TV or
Clothing.
clothing line that men models were told they would get a modeling gig with Abercrombie and Fitch if they go and do these events with P. Diddy and the parties. And it had
Okay.
them involved in drugs, being drugged, sexual events.
Are they
and
talking about the CEO?
Because
That's
the former,
also.
yeah, the former CEO was just,
I don't know.
Okay,
He-
no,
yeah,
definitely was.
yeah, he was just charged with sex trafficking and interstate prostitution.
That's what this is related to.
Yeah.
It's 100% the same, yes. What
Yeah.
that happened today?
No, it was like a day or two ago. Yesterday, it was
yeah.
they announced
It was
They made a
all-
press conference about it.
Right,
Yeah.
yesterday.
I think. Yeah,
Big
it was.
one.
It was this week. It was earlier. This
Okay,
week.
because I saw that we're on Thursday. I must have seen this Chris story on Tuesday that happened yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the follow up to the reality. So there's definitely some teeth to this. And guys, it is absolutely terrifying. It's torturous. It's horrifying. It's
Yeah.
tragic. Where these young men were cajoled and drugged allegedly into sexual acts of all sorts, and with the threat of their industry and livelihood and name being completely mired by very powerful people, essentially P. Diddy and the group, I guess. I don't know the particulars. I'm not going to purport to know, but
Yeah.
this is male sex trafficking, John. It is it is something that I think we need to open up venues and avenues and outlets for acknowledging it even exists, let alone dealing with the issue like the Me Too movement. Fair?
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. And
I would
it's
agree.
tragic.
It is. It is. Yeah. I really don't have words for it.
And I think we've kind of turned a blind eye to this. There was an actor that was on Law and Order, kind of a veteran actor. He had been kidnapped and raped by John Wayne Gacy back in 1979 when he was 19 years old. I can't recall the actor's name, but he's never talked about it because it caused him great shame.
Yeah. Again, that's what I mean when I say there's no avenue, there's no venue, there's no outlet, there's no recourse for a man going through an abusive, tragic situation. And
Yeah.
it's just, I can tell you, I barely get to hear about this actually in therapy. It's even so much so that it crosses over into therapy lines. Now, I have men will share their abuse for sure, but it is very difficult to get at those issues
Yep.
and to really work with them. We do, thankfully, but that is the only space that I know of that this gets dealt with at all, right?
Yeah,
So
I would agree to that.
let's open it up into public square, people, and understand that it exists, and men need help with the issue, just as much as women do. So,
Yep.
male sexual abuse. We have a YouTube listener that says, I respond to change with fear and trepidation.
Yes.
I am with you, Carolyn. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And let's just add overwhelm. So let's get to the topic, shall we? Navigating mental health in transitions is a really cool and functional topic that Victoria, you approached me about, and
Yes.
I think it's a cool topic because if you think about just all the different things that we experience in life, I mean, there are transitions regularly and routinely. I think we're probably going to focus on some of the bigger life transitions
Right.
that we go in to or through life, but understand the mild ones, the small ones kind of as well.
They add up.
They add up. Like if I'm simply changing my office to this one, to the one that has a window in it, which I've actually thought about. Don't have enough room in that office maybe, but that's a major change in my day-to-day. That's a simple change, but it still has all of these implications that we're going to be talking about with the big ones. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
because I would take over your office here.
would you? Yeah, we just...
I'd have to
Excuse
fight-
me.
I'd have to fight. I'd have to fight John for it.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
Oh,
but yeah, and I think that transitions. Actually, I was kind of surprised when I brought this topic to you that y'all hadn't already done
it's a good point. Absolutely.
episode about it.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, you know, we're talking about like when you go through separation.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about when like a pet dies.
Yeah, you have a baby,
You get
Or-
married.
new job.
You graduate college or high school. These are big transitions, right? So How do we go about this, Victoria? What the heck do we mean by transitions?
Okay, so I did you read the 3 questions?
Yep.
Yes, you did. Okay, look, I'm blanking. Okay, so I looked up a few different like definitions of what actual
We always like to know what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so of course I used ChatGPT, which I will say that was my very first time using it.
Oh, really? Welcome to
I-
the ChatGPT world.
Quite enjoyed it.
It's okay, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay, so ChatGPT classifies the term transition as it referring to the process of changing from one state, condition, or stage to another, which is pretty spot on, I would say.
Oh, can I pop a
Maybe.
thought?
I don't know.
That definition, listening to you, and maybe we'll get to this and whatnot, but there is a skill in transitions that I just thought might be important to mention.
Later
Given-
on?
Huh?
Or now?
Huh?
Now or later
Now.
on? Okay.
That has to do because you just said, the process of changing from one form or the other, and it made me think like, well, gosh, when we're going through changes, it's kind of like how water changes to a solid,
Okay.
a gas,
Mm-hmm.
or a liquid, depending upon its environment.
Yeah.
And so if it didn't have that malleability,
Right.
the malleability, is it malleability or malleability, John?
Malleability.
It was malleability. If you don't have the flexibility,
Malleability.
but that's what I said first.
Yes, that's it.
Then I said malleability, which I said
Well,
second.
I have the ability to change.
Okay, we'll go
Alright,
with
so-
that.
I'm malleable.
Malleability
I'm not
or
Malibu Stacy.
malleability.
Yeah.
Don't you have to be flexible to be able to experience change functionally?
For it to be like, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There has to be a certain amount of adjustability that you need in your life
Right.
to have a skill. And that changing from one form to another, if you're resisting that, fighting that, not accepting that, and not changing with it, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So then I also found another definition of life, specifically life transitions or periods of transformation that mark the beginning of something new, which continues on to say that it's a distinct shift from one phase of life to another, marked by identifiable beginnings, turning points, and then an ending. So coming together as having like an entry, and then an entry into the transition, a resolution of the transition, and then personal growth from the transition.
So you have a
Right.
build up, an entry, and growth thereafter.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's almost like thesis, antithesis, and catharsis.
You know what I was
Yeah.
thinking?
What?
Dating, engaging, and marrying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 Yours sounds so much cooler, though. I got to be honest.
More complex words.
Well, and when you brought this up,
Yeah.
and this is the first time I'm just an observer right here.
I love it. John.
Okay. And I'm observing this. It's like this has been issues that keep coming up because 50 years ago or 40 years ago, I think his name was Levison, came up with the seasons of a man's life and talked
I know
about
that material.
And then
I know what
Gail
you're talking
and
about.
Gail Sheehy also she's passed as well, but she did passages. But all these were kind of interrelated. It was based on transitions and changes, and I think we kind of rediscover this.
Yeah.
And I think they're very, and I think the reason why we keep rediscovering it is because they're valid.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, when I'm working with somebody in a therapy relationship, I spend a lot of time really thinking about where this person is in a life cycle, in an entire life cycle. And because there's definitely those stages that we go in. John is probably age is old, in philosophy and thinking and being aware of human behavior, because don't we have just constant transformation in our lives?
Yes, we do.
I mean, you think about becoming a teenager, you think about menopause, think
Yeah.
about, being single and before you've ever been married, you have specific things in each one of these phases and
Yeah.
stages that are common. Like, how many people have been single and never married and never had the thought, is there any Freddie for me out there?
Right.
I would say that's got to be a universal thought when you're single, pre-marriage, right?
I'd say for most people.
I
Yeah.
think so.
So there's a lot that kind of is going on. There's a lot that's happening in all of that, and so yeah, that's
Yeah. And then I guess then just another thing is to add is that there are different types of transitions. So like specifically today, I think we're focusing on like life, personal transitions.
okay.
But you also have which I thought this was kind of cool when I saw this mentioned. But you also have transitions like of education, technology, biology, and music. So
okay.
like personal
Music.
okay, hold on. Personal life is like when you're going, having a kid, getting married, graduating college, things like that. Education would be more like graduating high school, transitioning to college, transitioning to grad school, or
Okay.
or like your doctorate.
So we're
program.
layering out different
Yeah.
areas of life.
But then
yeah.
technology, like going from like analytical to digital and like those types of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slide rule.
Biology is menopause, hormones, periods, like all those things.
Okay.
And then music, it was talking about like the transition between like melodies and like
Well,
Think
there's
like the
not a lot.
transition-
There's not a lot of melodies now in our music. so.
whatever.
Oh,
But like
Mr.
that-
Critical.
But like that type of like transition, and they're all considered transitions, but specifically for today, we're focusing on like
Probably more of the personal transitions, but not
growth.
necessarily. Maybe we throw in because I think there's personal transitions, which catches a lot of those
Yeah, or
categories.
personal life,
but then
yeah.
there's also cultural
Yeah,
transitions, right? I mean, we've had a lot of transition around the world that's caused various points of disinformation and chaos. And my gosh, the
Where are
pandemic.
the flying cars?
We need
Yeah.
them? They're
We need
coming.
them. But no, I mean, it's just that we always think of something like that when in fact we've gone through a greater cultural revolution as a result of our technology.
And there's a big one coming.
Yeah, definitely.
AI.
AI, which
Mm-hmm.
she just
which I just mentioned.
Yeah.
she just
ChatGPT.
embraced.
It's
And-
going to be. It's a lot.
Yeah,
And what's interesting, okay, so here's an interesting thing too as we go through this conversation, understand like how rapidly cultural transitions are really occurring.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever seen the timeline of just technology and think of that as part of the cultural thing, would it take us 100 years to get from the radio to the TV, and then it took us 50 years to get from the TV to the microwave, and then it took us 10 years to get from the microwave to the first flip phones, and then it took us 1 year to get to these things called computers or whatever, and then it's like every year, every 6 months now, we have this major new thing like Neuralink coming online with Elon Musk. I mean,
Right.
the transitions are amazing.
yeah.
Well, I would agree, and that's a sense. There's an idea that every year, the amount of data that can be stored is
Doubling or
doubling.
tripling.
Yeah,
Same thing with like
it's
battery
Moore's
life.
law. Yeah, Moore's law.
Lithium. Yeah. There's I like the I haven't listened to our podcast for a little while, but they talk about things like
Yeah.
that. What's Moore's law?
Oh, it's just the idea of how much computing power can be put into a computer chip, and so they've gone now from we still use the silicon chips, which are very, very important, but now we're going into quantum computing, and there's that sense that it actually takes a lot more electricity and processing power and data crunching to develop the algorithms. And so it's not just how small you can make a device, it's how much information that can be stored
On said device.
on said device. Yeah.
Okay, right. And these are stressful, scary. Lots of these things that we're going to talk
sure.
about that people struggle with.
And we're talking now about the idea that there may be that AI will become sentient. And
Sentience and AI I know, John. I hear people talk about that.
and
The
I think
definition of sentience is-
I think we're many years away from that.
if it's ever possible.
But it can resemble because
It'll
right
resemble
now,
sentience.
in
Yeah,
fact,
sentience.
there
By
was
the
a-
way, listening, audience is, if I'm correct, John, having awareness of yourself. So it's self-awareness, consciousness, and self-awareness.
So that's saying that AI will have that
Yeah,
But
awareness of itself, even though it's a computer.
right. Well,
And so
I don't think it will ever. but-
Skyware.
Right, yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Skynet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's totally the Terminator.
Okay,
I mean,
the Terminator. But there was now someone is sued. A child was committed suicide because the chatbot gave answers that would enable that child to make a decision to commit suicide.
there was a lawsuit about that.
A lawsuit about that.
That sounds
Wow.
like that's a current event.
It's a current event.
I mean,
it's just
gosh.
yeah.
Tell you what, if you get that, bring that to us next
I will.
week.
I will.
That would be a good one to talk about if you see that. Do you think you
Okay.
could find it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's,
Yeah, bring that next week. That'll be a good thing to kick around.
it's in the Guardian, I think. No,
I don't want that to just be mentioned and then we get lost from it. So Victoria, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do people ever thrive and enjoy or revel in or even purposely create their own transitions and feel secure in them?
I think they can,
Uh-huh.
but I think oftentimes,
Uh-huh.
no.
Ow. What percentage of times would you say people can? Because I don't think it's a single digit, honestly. I think we need to have both sides of this aware. Because, sometimes I will just change my office around furniture-wise just because I want a change, right? You, right? I know. You should see her face look on YouTube Live saying, what does your
Me?
face say?
Says I've probably rearranged my office in the last 2 years like 17
I
different
mean,
times.
what the heck? It's almost scary. She
Like,
does.
Chris comes out of session. What's all that noise? I'm sorry. Why is everything in your office in the hallway? Because I'm reorganizing my office again. Ask my parents. My poor room was above their room.
You're
Growing
constantly
up,
moving
and like
stuff
at like 2:00 in the morning, I'd be like moving furniture. Yeah, it's an ADHD thing.
Could
But
be. Could
when I
be.
couldn't sleep, I'd be like, I wonder what this table would look like over here in this corner. Let me move this chest of drawers that's full of clothing. But yeah, so I mean, but those I think would be like the little ones. I would classify that as like a small.
Sure, those are
transition.
not major
But
transitions.
percentage wise, so you're asking for the percentage of people that revel in it.
Yeah.
And math, I would say 20 to 30%.
What do you say, John?
Are we focusing specifically on America?
Boy, that's a good question. Cultural differences are probably very profound
Let's
in this
just
issue.
do the states,
Yeah.
because that's what we know.
Better, yeah.
Yeah, I would still stick with
You
20,
struggle, John.
20
You
to
don't
30.
like. You don't want to say. A
I don't want to
percentage.
say. Yeah.
Why. What
Do
you
you think
thinking?
it's higher or lower than what I said?
What 20
20 to
Yeah.
30%
of what?
of people actually like revel in
Humans.
humans.
I don't-
revel in transition.
Well, I think it depends on what stage the
Mm-hmm.
person is in
Oh,
life.
that's a good point.
That is
Yeah.
a good point.
So I think one of the things that I lived through the hippie land times, and they went from being very laced down, tight, buttoned up in the '60s, and I swear everybody had birth control eyeglasses and
Really?
slick Brill cream and all of that, and then they became hippies.
Okay.
And that happened very quickly. So the age, but they were usually very young people, and they became the Flyer Children, for example, and they
Fair,
rebelled.
right.
Yeah. So that was a higher level percentage. Perhaps I remember growing my hair out. I was just 14,
Yeah.
something like that, and I got sent to the office a couple of times.
I had long hair
Because
too.
you had long hair?
For me,
I
had
had
hair.
long hair down past the collar on my jean jacket.
I did.
Matter of fact, I want a jean jacket so bad. Like nowadays, I don't know. That's
I had
totally
a jean
random.
jacket, yeah.
But they sent you to the office because you had long hair.
Yeah, I could get paddled
Jeez. Goodness gracious,
by the
man.
Board of Education. Had holes in it. It was like a pike,
Yeah, no.
fraternity.
It's less resistance.
Yeah, that's a little different now.
Yeah, but yeah,
No
so-
comment.
And I remember, and I was sweet on the don't tell my wife this, but I was sweet on the dean of boys' daughter, and her name was Pat. She was just gorgeous, and he called me in and he said, Mr. Pope, you need to get your hair's getting a little long. You need to get it cut. You will get it cut.
You will.
When I see you tomorrow, it will be cut.
The audacity.
Yeah.
Power move.
I was Coach Crawford.
And you were a rule follower like I was, I think, so it terrified you, didn't it?
Yeah. So I got it cut.
I'd be like,
Not too much.
I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris, what about you? What do you think the percentage is?
I think it's probably less than 30% for sure, but I agree. I mean, I don't want to be scientific about it, but just in way of discussion, yeah, I feel like there's a significant percentage like that, though. It's not like 5%.
Yeah, I wouldn't say single digits either.
And I thought that it was important to mention that and gear into that because we don't need to demonize this. I mean, this isn't something that we want to build fear up about. Mm-hmm. Transitions are wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, it just popped in my head how cool it was that he accepted this, but it's scary at first because you just don't know the outcome. But I'll never forget my son. He first, I don't know, he might have been 10 or something like that, and we're on the top stairs of the steps. We're on a little landing on the second floor, and he looked up at me, and he just, in his cute, sweet eyes, soft voice tone at the time, he's like, Dad, he's like, you have hair on your arms. And I looked, I was like, yeah. And he said, Dad, I really don't want hair on my arms. Right? He was really panicked about it. This was something that he concocted in his head that he was like, oh my God,
worst
this is
thing
the ever. And I just told him, look, it's okay, buddy. When you grow up and you get bigger and you become a man, that's part, and it's going to be okay.
It gets to the point you don't notice it.
Huh?
It gets to the point where you don't notice it.
Well, of course.
I mean, and then you may want to have hair on your chest or something like that, and then you end up gluing it on or something.
People do that. They do, don't they?
Chest toupee.
So it is to say that there's so much fear about this. There's so much angst about this, but people really can begin to grow into like actually being comfortable through these things. Yeah. But the much larger percentage struggles. Yeah. How, Victoria, and why do we struggle so bad?
So I'm not going to necessarily read through like all of the definitions that go, or like the things that go with it. But like we have things like uncertainty, the whole like fear of the unknown, which I feel like a majority of the people have.
Yeah.
Like that's definitely going to be able to, or not going to be able, but that is going to hold you back from being like fully accepting of transitions because you don't know like what's on the other side. Now, sometimes you might have some knowledge of what might be on the other side, but I feel like a lot of times we don't necessarily know what the outcomes will be.
I think
so that uncertainty is kind of like why big. I think that's a big thing for why people struggle.
To me, I think it's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like when you're facing a major change, you get into a comfortable space throughout your life, and you know that this is going to be different. And there's just no way to know until it happens what it's going to be like. And, my son just moved out for the second time. He floored me when he looked at me. Same kid about the hair, by the way. And he looked at me and he's like, man, it hit him, right? He went and got the U-Haul, and he drove home. He sat home, and he sat on the couch. We were getting ready to hang out, probably watch a sporting event. And he looked at me. He's like, man, I just kind of want to go now. I'm like, whoa, what you want to go, like, move to Raleigh now? Like, and he's like, yeah, because we were going to move tomorrow. And he's like, well, Dad, it's just the anticipation. It's hardest.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. Oh, yeah. Do you know how many times I've done that?
Oh, man. It is, John. When you've got something major coming up and you know it's going to hit you and you don't know what it's going to be like, it's crazy.
You don't think it's... I know he's anxious to do it. Do you think that there's more energy to do it when you're young, to go out, or not?
to just go through a transition.
Well, yeah, to,
live on your
to
own
go.
specifically.
Well, just to take up and go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like prior to having a kid, I would just be like, hey, let's just get in the car and go to the beach. Like,
But also
That
make
kind of
life
thing?
changes. Like I have a
oh,
client.
like I'm just going to go, like, get a tattoo
Before-
and not think about it.
yeah,
Or are we talking bigger?
bigger. Like moving, going to
I'm
a
going to just
different
move
school.
to Seattle.
You know, John, I don't know. It's an interesting thought. I wonder if you've thought a lot about it. My initial reaction to that is no. I don't think, because I think in different stages of your life you handle things differently. That's all. So maybe there's more energy when you're younger, but hopefully when you're older you have more flexibility because life's forced you to move around and you've learned it better not fight this, better just go with it.
Well, I've always found moving hard. I've always found
and
it
you're
hard.
speaking specifically just about moving then.
About moving or changing a job or something of this sort.
Well,
you know.
those are transitions then. Yeah.
Major transitions, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that there's just more. So you're proposing that younger people just have more energy for this or more acceptance?
I
for
don't
this?
know if they have been able to think it out completely, and then they would talk themselves out of doing something. I think people my age tend to they're forced to have change and become more flexible, but at the same time, they probably have considered a lot more how that would disrupt or change your life, whereas a younger person may be more impulsive. I don't know. I'm agnostic.
It's really curious. You got my brain
I'm
swirling.
agnostic about
You
it.
got my brain moving a little bit, though. It's fun because
Uh-huh.
I really kind of am thinking about, high school graduation and the first semester in college, man. People are struggling. I was young and full of energy, but, man, my freshman year first semester was hard. I was homesick was horrible. That's only one of 2 times I've ever really gotten homesick, and it was rough. So I don't know. It's curious. I think there's just many different personalities involved and traits that we have, and that probably influences it. But it's fascinating. It's fun to think about.
For sure.
Some other things though. I think we were talking about loss of stability. I mean, it's that comfort zone that we get into, even in a toxic or bad marriage. Relationship, you get comfortable.
Do you know how many times
You
when,
get
when my husband and I moved, I started driving to our old place like after work, and I would basically get to like our townhome that we
Just
lived in
no,
before,
all
and then
the
I'd
way
be
there.
like, oh my god, I don't live here anymore, like whipping around, and like just because I was such in that habit of like driving the same way home every day, like I didn't even think about it until I got home and until I got to the townhome and I was like, wait. We don't live here anymore.
Wow. That must have been a shocker.
Oh. But yeah, I mean, I think you do get like, there's stability in that and the things that you do every day or you do repetitively. And then all of a sudden now, having a kid, you're used to being able to like,
Oh my God, I was terrified.
like
Yeah.
you can just go to the bar after work and meet
Right.
up with your coworkers or your friends. But now I have a child. I have to I can't do that.
Right.
I have to pick up my kid from daycare, and then if I want to go out, I have to find a babysitter, or
a
I have
process.
to go somewhere that's kid friendly that I can bring my kid, or
Biggest life change you can go through, I feel like.
Yeah, so I think and then that kind of throws you off because then I think that leads into one, the identity shifts.
Okay.
Okay, of again becoming a parent. Now, how do I identify?
Right.
Do I identify still as Victoria? Or am I a mom? Or am I Victoria, the therapist, and a mom, and a wife, and
Existential crisis.
Yeah. But then also the emotional roller coaster. Like when we're going through all these transitions and you're feeling all these feelings, whether it be fear, anxiety, whether it be excitement.
I don't want to jump off the identity that quick because that's really a huge piece that I feel like
Of how to identify.
contributes to the instability and the fear that we have because we really value our identity. I mean, I like me some me, you might say, right? And when you're telling me I'm going to go through a transition and I'm not going to be the same me, I'm not so sure I want to do that. It's really intimidating.
Postpartum
Losing
depression, postpartum
something.
anxiety. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's why people go through those things is one, your drastic change in hormones, like the chemicals in your body.
Yeah, it's biological.
But also, like, yeah, like, I don't think she would mind me telling this. I have a friend who dealt with postpartum depression, and it was because she, like, didn't know who she was anymore. She had been this one person all her life, and now she's a parent, and like she struggled with like who, like, other than being a mom, now who
Some
am
women
I?
struggle to even accept the child's
Yeah,
presence.
yeah, and like, I mean, and she went to therapy and did all the things, but like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely that is a huge transition. And then if you don't have like the support people around you to help with that, then like,
Yeah, you need support.
I was thinking also people that are in I'd say failing marriages with sometimes the spouse is perhaps bipolar or has a borderline diagnosis,
Oh, yeah.
and it's always walking on eggshells
Oh, yeah.
or walking on glass,
Right.
And
Oh,
there's
walking on glass.
ouch,
Oh.
that sounds awful.
difficult. Well, that's the way it was described to me.
Oh,
by
my
somebody,
goodness.
but that person hasn't left.
That's a powerful description.
Yeah. And so it's hard, I think, sometimes to make that transition. So I never did come down with a percentage on how. I think it depends on the individual, and I think it possibly, and I mentioned that it possibly has to do with the age, but I think the more settled you are, you could be settled in your misery in, let's say, a very difficult situation in a
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
And not know where you stand, and yet at the same time, that's the only thing you know.
I mean, when you get unseated, man, you're not in your seat anymore. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, thought leaders, content creators, successful people will talk about break it all down and build it back up.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a special ability, which is a good feedback. I mean, you really do need to break what you're doing and you create anew. And just like muscles, when you break your muscles down and then you add protein, you get stronger muscles. So life is like that. We really exercise our emotion.
Yeah.
You mentioned the emotional roller coaster
Yeah.
and losing the identity that you had previously. I mean, these are big deals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why else do we struggle?
What
else comes to mind?
Social dynamics. So like these changes in these like relationships, or can affect relationships, sometimes can lead to those like isolations or the need to like rebuild a social network. Say I do, next week find out that I have to, like, my husband got a job in Seattle and I have to pick up and leave North Carolina, which I've never lived outside of, and now I have to go live in Seattle, Washington.
man.
That's where
Like,
the bluest skies you've ever
which
seen.
I mean,
In Seattle?
I would think that'd be
Seattle.
okay living in Seattle, but like I would have to start over. Like, I don't know anybody that lives in Seattle. I don't have a job in Seattle. Like, I would literally have to like rebuild my entire social network.
I lived that, actually.
Huh?
I lived that. When I
Yeah.
graduated grad school and I was engaged and got married and then got my first full-time gig in the field and moved from West Virginia to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Whew. That brought me to my knees, John. I mean, it brought me down to the ground, man.
Yeah,
Hit hard.
it did.
It was like, wow. What is my life? I'm no longer a WVU student. I'm no longer single. I am now married. I have to be a
So
professional.
you had to give up
and I'm not a West Virginian.
your corncob pipe and your moonshine jar.
Stop that. Yeah, I did, but I still have them. So I didn't have to give them up totally. It's a lot of change.
But yeah,
It's a big change.
Hmm.
That's and I think that's where people that I think that's sometimes you have to encourage people to travel to get outside of their comfort zone, to get out of the state of North Carolina.
No, I've been outside of the state of North Carolina. I just
To
haven't
live
lived
outside the state of-
And
North
it's a big
Carolina.
difference living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just visiting.
Yeah.
Not
living.
just yeah.
And I think that's because you find yourself on the outside of a culture, and you get, let's say if you live overseas or if you live in Europe or
When I was in Italy for
Asia.
2 weeks at one point, and that was like a woo culture shock.
I think I learned very quickly how to order off the menu.
In Italy?
In Italy.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, because I had to eat. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but
You just used Google Translate, didn't you?
no.
AI is making this.
I was
easy.
yeah. No, it was before that. It was when I studied in Rome for.
Oh, you was a
6
youngster.
weeks. Yeah.
The young pope.
Yeah, I was a young pope. Yeah.
So Victoria, it's interesting this next one that you have listed, expectations versus reality.
Yeah.
I'm really curious what you mean by that or what you're thinking there because
I
I
think
think a
it's-
lot about expectations.
Don't mind my hand gesture. I think.
Okay.
I do this sometimes when I think. But I think it's more of like we have an expectation that an outcome of a transition is going to look a certain way. And so when it doesn't happen that way, then we end up with like disappointment. We end up feeling let
Interesting.
down.
Okay, right.
We end up feeling like it's,
Betrayed
yeah, like,
or wronged.
okay, well, yeah, okay, if I'm sticking on this moving to Seattle thing, like if I go to Seattle and I expect, okay, like we're going to find this place to live, I have, like a job lined up, blah, 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 but then I like don't get the job, or we like, our like loan for the house doesn't get approved or like whatever, then like, okay, well, what the heck am I going to do? Like we don't have no place
Are
to
you going to
live.
Seattle?
No, I'm not
Victoria?
going to Seattle. But I'd like to visit Seattle though. Just not live there.
So okay, you guys
There's
just
a good
diverged. That gives me an
psychiatrist.
opportunity
There's
to pull us back,
psychiatrist there.
pull us back
Fraser
in
Cain.
and focus
But
on this.
sometimes it's saying that there's just a gap between how we want transitions to go, how we expect them to go, versus how they can actually happen.
Yeah, expectations versus reality. But here's interesting. I think a lot about expectations, and I've
we
said
talk a lot
many
about
times
expectations, yeah.
before, the best way to have an expectation is to only do that when you have an agreement between you and the other person. There has to be an agreement. Both
Mm-hmm.
people need to agree. That is, in my mind, by far the best way to come at an expectation or long-term norms. And I always use the example, Sunday meals at 7. We've done it
Whatever, yeah.
72 times in a row. I can expect the 73rd time
Where it's going to happen.
to be
Right.
that way. But can I make a bold statement and say
You're going to
that
say it anyway, so yeah,
it
go for
is?
it.
May I? If I'm told no, I wouldn't do it.
Go for
John.
it, Chris.
It's your show, Chris.
Is it fair to make the bold statement and say it's dangerous for you to have expectations
During a transition.
when you're in transitions internally in your own thinking?
Even if you're not vocalizing them to like other people or
Right.
whatever.
Would you restate that again? Be so
Yeah.
bold as to describe that again.
Sure. It occurs to me as really curious that if you need agreements with others to have safe, healthy, fully cool expectations, then when you're thinking about them internally and you're going through a life transition, I'm thinking that it's probably not advisable to have expectations.
Like going with clean slate.
Yeah. You really can't control what's going to happen when you move to Chapel Hill. You can expect
That is one of the most difficult things to do, though.
moving. Yeah.
No, to not have
To not have
Yeah.
expectations.
their
I know.
expectations because
it's almost the same as like when people say, "Oh, don't get your hopes up." Well, sometimes it's hard not to like have hope for specific things. Like
And that's what you're saying,
I
John.
can't,
Right.
I can't like I don't know how to stop it. Like I don't know how to stop having expectations when I know that realistically, like those might not be able to become
Occur.
the outcome,
Be
occur,
reality.
or whatever the word
Be
is.
reality.
Yeah.
I felt like you had more thoughts there, John.
no, No.
Look, I can read John. I know when he's done talking.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, so can we move on?
Well, I guess
Or do
so.
you wanna
Yeah,
say-
maybe,
okay.
maybe.
I was
we-
going to
maybe
make a
we do.
quip. but I'm not now.
I don't really resource management. Like, I just kind of threw that in there as like, I mean, adjusting to new circumstances often requires new skills or resources, which can be a source of stress if not adequately prepared for.
Fear of failure, definitely
Yeah.
not to miss. Look, I love that you highlighted Victoria, really requiring the support and the encouragement from others. And, well, you put time, support, and self-compassion. I think
Yeah.
grace is an important part of that. And just listen. Pat McAfee on the McAfee show, I said, like, say something nice to a friend, you might change their life.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true. Like, you've got to have other people in your life that tell you you're not losing your crap. You're still you, John. You went through this change, but we're going to get through it, because otherwise, I mean, it's scary.
So, having friends.
Having companions,
That's right.
friends, not
Yeah.
being
I
alone.
think one of the concerns of our age that we live in, I'm looking at this sociologically.
Diverse group right
the-
here.
Well, is we used to be able to talk to the village elder for advice. Now we have to go, and we used to talk to the priest or to the minister.
Right.
We don't have that anymore.
Who's the
unfortunately-
go-to?
Who's the go-to is therapist.
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. Okay.
Okay, well, are you just
Famous actors, P.
Oh.
Diddy.
Yeah.
No.
Idols.
Yeah.
This
Taylor
is-
Swift.
Taylor
do that.
Swifties.
Swifties.
And I agree. I think your spirit of your statement is really interesting. That's really transitioned. I'm going to say transitioned, though, because unfortunately we do go to probably not the best sources. Facebook, Twitter.
Yeah.
That's right. You get
Instagram.
you get your
TikTok.
self-image
Right.
by having the duck lips.
Yeah.
Or to yourself, or how you could Photoshop
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably something that we need to step back. Society's gone too far, and we miss,
We need to
The
listen
elders.
to wise people
have good counsel.
and be able to have the discernment to do that, which would help us with change.
100% agree.
Yeah.
So how do we do this? Let's a good
But
transition.
can I just
Okay.
read my little spiel
Sure.
thing I found? I just think it's like I didn't really know where to plug it in, so I kind of just threw it in there. But I found on Psychology Today talked about how life transitions. I'm just going to read it verbatim. Life transitions can induce stress, affecting mental health and leading to symptoms of anxiety, fear, loneliness, physical issues such as trouble sleeping, panic attacks, and digestive issues.
Oh, that's
or
my issue.
problems. So it's crucial to just keep in mind. I guess this is a good segue, but it's crucial to. Can I not read today? Apparently, good lord. It's crucial to manage stress effectively to prevent its negative effect on your well-being.
Yeah.
So I think when we're about to go through ways to manage life transitions, but I think if we're not doing that, it can have not only impact on your mental health, but it can also have an impact on your physical health, like getting stomach aches or digestive problems or having headaches or things like that.
It's mind body tied. I mean, your emotions and your body are absolutely intertwined. And yeah, it's interesting. I've been talking about this a lot in the podcast that I listen to. My buddy Adrian sent me a podcast on left brain, right brain stuff. And it really is fascinating if you really layer into what happens. And I've been using it in therapy with people lately.
Okay.
And you just made me think of that with these sensations, Your left brain is really the linguistic center. It actually processes language. Like you are listening to us in this podcast and your left brain is receiving our dialogue, and all four of us, you, the listener, John, Victoria, and I, are all connecting on our left brain. But our right brain is into imagery, symbolism,
Arts.
observations. It's considered possibly to be the older part of the two hemispheres because they split apart very easily if you know the anatomy. And so they both want to tell you something. And it's an older part of the brain where we see the bear and we know what the symbol means. And it's highly linked in. There are a lot of neuronic connections to our hypothalamus, also our memory banks. Like it's highly wired. The left side of the brain isn't as much. I think that's a fact. And so when you're experiencing those things, Victoria, that you just put out, it's basically your right brain saying, holy crap, we have a transition. We're losing our identity. We don't know what outcome is going to be. This is scary. This is bad. This is dangerous.
Right.
And then you get the digestion. Then you get the heart rate.
So you're
then
not
you
as
right?
articulate. In other words, you don't
Oh,
have
very articulate.
Yeah.
Very articulate. However, not with words, with tension,
Tension.
stress.
Right. So in other
queasiness.
words, you may not have the composition structure in your brain.
Right
But
hemisphere.
right, but you are connected with your digestive. My little sojourn into the hospital for over 8 days, I had somebody come in to me. By the way, you were talking about health, and I want to give a shout out to our nutritionist, Cirilla.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because she's been talking about this. And one of the things was that they said, "Did you know how many nerves and neurons are in your digestive system?"
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
She
said
taught me that
is-
too, yeah.
yeah, it's phenomenal.
Absolutely phenomenal.
So it's a second brain.
They call it the second brain, your stomach, yeah.
Yeah,
Produces hormones, too.
yeah.
It's
And
kind of-
neurotransmitters.
Well, it's kind of
So-
the reason where the term "trust your gut"
Your gut,
comes
yeah.
from.
True.
Like,
True that.
yeah.
that.
Okay, so let's get to some
Yep, we need to get to it.
ways
'cause-
to manage. So quickly, the first three because those don't have things to go with them. Doing things like exploring a new hobby, that's more of a distraction tool.
Self-care,
Yeah.
cornerstone of mental health.
Improving your sleep hygiene. What that means is having like a routine, doing your skincare, brushing your teeth, developing routines within the chaos is kind of what it
Okay.
is. Practice healthy eating habits.
You just stopped.
Oh, I did.
Why do you
I
do
thought-
mid-sentence stops,
I don't
Victoria?
know. It's my brain computing. I'm not as fast as AI. So then we have more things like setting clear intentions, defining like what it is that you want to achieve during this transition, and have clarity about the goals in which you can provide direction, with the understanding that we don't want to get our expectations too high for
See, that's
things.
it. I love that. And I tell you why I love that. Having clear intentions
is different than expectations.
is different. And I think that we talk about, I expect North Carolina to be wonderful, and that's why I'm moving there. Well, you're really in a powerless zone. You can't make North Carolina anything. But I
we do have all
intend
4 seasons.
I intend to put myself in a good situation, and they have 4 seasons. They have lakes, rivers, and trees in between the beach and the mountains, and I love it, which is why I decided to come. But so I had clear intentions,
Right.
but
Your
I think when you have
expectation.
expectations about your intentions, that's dangerous. So that's
Maybe we should do a
that's
podcast
fascinating.
episode on that.
Intentions versus expectations. That might not be a bad idea.
I'll
That
write
might
the
not be a bad
content
idea.
for you.
All right, let's rock and roll.
Okay, so then we move on to things like, and we've kind of mentioned this before, John did, like creating a social network support system, reaching out to those friends, family, mentor, these people that can offer you advice, encouragement, even if it's just a listening ear. Like having the support system, I don't know how often y'all deal with this, but I don't think people realize like how crucial to well-being having support.
Can't do it alone, Victoria.
Yeah.
It's just stupid.
Like,
I'll say that. It's just stupid.
yeah.
To try to go through a major transition. I mean, if you're changing your office around, fine.
Yeah,
whatever.
nobody has to.
When you're
don't take- yeah.
when you're talking about a major life transition, John, I don't know why people feel like that to be alone. Lone wolf. I'm tough. I got it. I made my own decision. I made my bed. Now I have to sleep in it. Listen, I just have a client that moved to Montana, up and just moved. We talked about it. He was excited.
Yeah.
But it was apprehensive. And hey, buddy, I'm thinking of you. I'm really rooting for you. And He's happy and well, I understand, in Montana. Boom, just went and did that.
Yep.
You can't do that alone.
Yeah.
You know, he's got his partner and he's got his job and some people up there. It's dangerous to do stuff so alone.
I mean, yeah, you're basically like self-isolating yourself
Yeah.
in one form or another.
And then when you do it, I think I see you brainstormed out, you know, doing this gracefully and gradually,
Embrace. Oh yeah.
slowly. Like, we don't need to just jump in, and you use the word impulsive with young people, John. They
Yeah.
probably are a little more impulsive. We want to really be thoughtful about this that we're doing and when we can. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. I think you have to be methodical about it. Too.
There's a word,
Yeah.
methodical.
Also journaling, things like that.
Yeah. I do you find that there's a resistance to people doing journaling or writing because it takes a commitment of will to just sit down, put pen to paper,
Yes.
and
Which-
or typing?
Yes, which is why I have recently started informing my clients of an app that I have found. It's called How We Feel.
Oh, okay.
It's got a little like colorful heart, black background, colorful heart. It's a free app because they thrive on donations
Okay.
to be able to provide the app for free. But it is an app where you can check in with your feelings. Like it tracks the time of day you're checking in, the date. It also, you can track, you can journal with it. Like you can attach a photo, you can write like a short blurb of what is like kind of going on. You can also track where you are, who you're with, what you're doing. And then it like combines all this information. And over time, the goal would be to like see if there's any patterns that develop like in feeling. It also has resources for psychoeducation and feelings and emotions and all the things, as well as like coping skills and other resources. I really
Okay.
like it.
Cool.
And it's a free app, so it's called How We Feel. But I think encouraging things like that, where your phone, most people nowadays, literally my phone is sitting right here and John's is right there and yours is right there. Like we don't really go anywhere without our phones nowadays,
They
whether
are
that's a
part
good
of
or a
us.
bad thing. But so then that makes it easier when you have a journaling type thing where it's an app. It can be discreet. No, like you can just be typing away on your phone. Nobody has to know that you're journaling. And I think you might not be as consistent as we would like, but I think it is a helpful thing in going forward. So
Very
yeah.
cool. Yeah, thank you for
Anyways.
that. Thank you for turning us on to
Do
that.
you want me
It
to just
sounds-
run through kind of like
Sounds
the rest?
very helpful. Well, we're aware of time a little
Yeah.
bit. I think obviously mindfulness is something that's always on your agenda, and
Staying open
you
to
know,
learning.
I thought it was cool that you thought through new routines.
Yes.
That is an important specific skill. When we moved to Chapel Hill again, it was really stressful because I needed to learn like where this crazy thing is. If we had time, I'd tell you about finding this place called Bojangles, which we don't have time. I can't go to it because it was a
Bojangles.
horrible hot day, greasiest chicken I've ever had in my life. It was terrible for me that day. I know people love Bojangles. I am committing mortal
I'm probably
sin here
having
in the
that
South.
for dinner on my way
I
home.
am committing mortal sin throughout the world. Y'all need to understand these North Carolinian people just love their freaking Bojangles. But I didn't. But I needed to flexibly change with that. And we had to find these new places and develop new routines.
Yep.
And that helps to stabilize what it is. Like that's a direct skill to help
So
you cope.
you take an internalized map or you take an external map and then you internalize it and you do vice versa. In other
Right.
words,
Absolutely.
you get milestones in places that are comforting.
Yes.
Yes, like mine's Duncan.
Love that.
Yeah.
Miles
Yeah.
Duncan, what's that?
No,
He said mine is Dunkin'.
Mine
Dunkin'
is
Do-
Dunkin'.
Dunkin'
Oh,
Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts. Yes, you have
Yeah.
the comfort and yeah,
Yeah, the
absolutely.
coffee.
So I would like to also quickly mention celebrating the small wins
Definitely.
adds up.
That is a huge.
And also like seeking professional guidance, whether that be through therapy or if you choose to go. I know we talked about coaching a couple episodes ago.
We did, yeah.
But whatever route that it's okay, and it's okay. It's okay if you feel like you can't handle it and you need some additional help other than talking to your best friend.
Okay. Now you also have on that list avoiding comparisons. with
I
other
love that.
people.
Thank you, John,
yes.
yeah.
Folks,
That's very
yeah.
good. You were brilliant with
Limit
that.
comparisons.
And I
yeah,
like-
because
I
you
like
don't want to
the-
compare my move to Seattle versus your move to Seattle.
I
But
would
I-
go to Vancouver.
Okay,
Okay.
but I
So-
like that you said limiting comparisons because they can be helpful.
Yeah.
Also, you're gonna do it. I understand West Virginia so much better by living in North Carolina.
Right.
I'm willing to bet my son, hey Adam, I love you, man. He's over there in Japan.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's going to understand the United States of America so much better by being able to have the experience of living in Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so you do incorporate higher level understandings of life situations. Like you understand being a teenager better when you're in your 20s in some ways, right? So we do compare, but limiting that.
Yeah.
Why? What says y'all? Why do we want to limit it?
Well, because then I think that we can we can drown ourselves in it. And then it kind of goes back to the expectations when our experience doesn't equal or live up to the experience that somebody else had, then we feel a certain type of way about that.
You tie your happiness
Yeah.
to what another person has gone through, their experience. And so you can learn from others' experiences, but you don't have to covet it. You can actually say, well, I want to make my own experience. And
Right.
But it's kind of difficult for some people to do that.
Okay, so it's safe, healthy, and can we say this? I'm learning
Yeah.
right now. Can we say it is safe, healthy, and good to compare your transition from what was and what is, but is really damning and dangerous to compare your transition to others'
Right.
transitions?
Exactly.
That's a big difference.
Yes.
So we're talking about other people. Avoid that, but compare and understand the before and after in your own life. Okay, cool.
Right.
I'm good with that. That makes
And
sense.
I
to
think
me.
I think that's one way that you could. Levison's book, which was a season, the seasons in a man's life.
Gotcha.
Where people were derailed or went off the curb, is that if they would overly compare themselves to others and say, if I could be this successful or something like that, but if you were able to step outside of yourself a little bit and see that person's example, then maybe you don't have to covet it.
Yeah.
as much.
Ooh, covet. That's a word.
Yeah.
You have to pine after it or long for it.
Pineapple. Yeah.
Closing
So listen, we need to wrap up today, and I'm glad and thank you, Victoria. This has been awesome because it is a conversation about something that we all experience, that we all engage, and I think we all struggle with. So that's awesome.
Well, I mean, I think my closing thoughts are that, transitions are inevitable, but based on the things that we've talked about today, they could be manageable and sometimes even transformative in somebody's life. And so, like, implementing these skills and doing the things to make it a little bit more manageable can make it so that we can navigate them more and more effectively and have some resilience.
Perfect. That is a mic drop. Listen, guys, do your transitions, and we hopefully have given you some ideas and thoughts of some things to avoid, some things that are pitfalls. But this is manageable and wonderful because transitions result in
And they're not all
new.
bad.
They result in new.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, be well, and we will